Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss my research on the impact a father's highest level of education in the UK has on his political and social affairs. First of all, according to Nordquist, education is the process or act of learning or teaching, that is obtaining and transferring knowledge. The aim of this research is to analyze the impact of a father's highest level of education on his interest in politics and a fair chance when seeking a job. From my literature reviews, fathers with higher education levels tend to have good occupation status. Also, per another review, fathers with greater levels of education are more likely to be politically active. In the course of the research, to help me gather more quality literature to support my findings, here are the questions. Does a father's level of education have an impact on his interest in politics? Does a father's level of education have an impact on fair chances when seeking a job? The research data was produced by the European Social Survey, which used a multi-stage sampling method to gather its data. The sample represents the UK population with a sample size of 2,204 people, ranging from age 15 and above. For the measures, taking my first variable, which is interest in politics, I had to categorize the response to very interested, quite interested, no interest, and hardly interested. For the second variable, which is father's highest level of education, I had to categorize the educational levels into primary education, secondary education, further education, and higher education. Lastly, for my third variable, which is fair chance when seeking a job, I categorized them into applies completely, applies, somewhat applies, does not apply, and does not really apply. For my inferential test, the chi-square test of independence was used for all associations. For the first association, the null hypothesis was there is no association between the father's highest level of education and interest in politics. The alternative hypothesis was there is an association between the father's highest level of education and interest in politics. For the second association, the null hypothesis was there is no association between father's highest level of education and fair chance when seeking a job. For the alternative hypothesis, it was there is an association between father's highest level of education and fair chance when seeking a job. Here are the results of the graphical representation of my bivariate graphs. On the left hand side is the proportion of interest in politics by father's educational levels. Looking across all educational levels, it is evident that regardless of the father's educational level, he tends to have quite an interest in politics. This runs across all the levels of education, meaning that the interest in politics does not really depend on the level of education. On the right hand side is the graphical representation for my bivariate graph for the second association, which is proportion of fair job chances by father's educational levels. Okay, so as seen in the graph, it is evident that most of the population that was tested can attest to the fact that having further education or having higher education applies to your chances of attaining a good job. The p-value was 0.0000001124, which was less than the significance value 0.05. For that reason, we had to reject the null hypothesis, making it a type 1 error. For the second association as well, the p-value was less than the significance value, which is 0.5, making us um, reject the null hypothesis again, making it a type 1 error. In summary of this research, it has been concluded that regardless of the father's highest level of education, he tends to have an interest in politics. That being said, most of the literature research and reviews that I found has been contradicted because per my research, most fathers have interest, quite an interest in politics regardless of their educational level. For the second association, the research has concluded that there's actually a relation between the father's level of education and his fair chance when seeking a job. This implies that fathers of higher educational levels tend to have fair chances when seeking a job, and fathers with low educational level tend to have low chances when seeking job. Per the literature I got on the second association, there is no contradiction, and in conclusion, the father's level of education determines his chance when seeking a job. In the future, when undertaking a research, I think it would be good and necessary for researchers to expand or increase their sample size in order to have a fair um, understanding of what the whole population goes through, in order to be able to come up with more accurate data.